Things are starting to ramp up in the NBA world, with players trickling their ways back into the team's practice facilities and training camp being right around the corner. This was definitely a pretty action-packed offseason as is, but it's never too late for things to get shaken up in a big way, as we saw just last summer with the Damian Lillard trade going down right around this time. Because of this, Bleacher Report has published an article proposing 4 hypothetical blockbuster trades with the intention of the teams acquiring the star involved shooting up to the tier of contender. As always, I'll be going through each of these proposals, analyzing whether or not the deal makes sense, why or why not the teams involved would want to do it, who benefits the most from it, and so on and so forth. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first proposal from the article is between the Memphis Grizzlies and the New Orleans Pelicans, where the Grizzlies receive Brandon Ingram in exchange for Marcus Smart, Brandon Clark, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick. It's a shame to see Brandon Ingram's value tank as hard as it has, but the reality is that this may be just about the best return the Pelicans could get for him at this point. The former All-Star has been a terrific talent, steadily progressing over time, but then this past year he took a noticeable step backward, and his year ended on a pretty sour note with one of the worst playoff showings of any star in the league. Yes, he was dealing with injuries at the time, and there's definitely reason to believe he can bounce back when he returns to full strength, seeing as he is still just 27 years old. But then you have to factor in the fact that he has just 1 year left on his current contract, and players on expiring deals also typically lose value in trade talks. The Pelicans have definitely tried to trade him this summer, according to several reports, but if they actually wanted to get a deal done, they may need to accept the fact that he's only worth a fraction of what he once was, and this offer from the Grizzlies is honestly somewhat intriguing for them. Marcus Smart's first year in Memphis was a bit of a disaster, as he couldn't weather the storm in Ja Morant's early season absence, and then he suffered an injury that held him out of most of the rest of the year. He's still a very impactful role player who provides elite defense and secondary playmaking at either guard spot though. Brandon Clark has been a serviceable big man in the Grizzlies rotation for years now, and on a Pelicans team in desperate need of big man depth, that's also a boost for sure. The Grizzlies' motivation to take a swing like this is obvious, as they're getting everyone back healthy this season and want to return to the days where they were amongst the best in the Western Conference, but they also know that a few teams have emerged around them and could easily pass them up. The Grizzlies were the league's worst ranked offense last season, and even at full strength could absolutely use another star caliber creator, so they provide the perfect opportunity to buy low on Ingram, who also fits a huge positional need for the Grizzlies at the small forward spot. All in all, this deal comes down to whether or not the Pelicans admit that they have to reduce their asking price for Ingram, because they're at risk of losing him for nothing in free agency next summer anyway, and the Grizzlies are admittedly an amazing fit for him. The next proposal from the article is between the Houston Rockets and the Miami Heat, where the Rockets receive Jimmy Butler in exchange for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Cam Whitmore, Jeff Green, and 2 first-round picks. There's currently some smoke coming out of the world of Miami Heat that behind the scenes things are not all sunshine and rainbows between Jimmy Butler and the organization, and with him only having 1 guaranteed season left on his current contract plus a player option, there have been rumors that he could be one of the next big names to be moved. Butler has certainly never been shy in his past about wanting to move on from his current situation if he is over it, so if it reaches that point again, then the Heat will definitely have quite a few teams interested in hitting their phones up, but the Rockets would be a surprising one. The Rockets have been riding the Jalen Green experience for 3 years now, and it's come with pure inconsistency, incredible highs, but also worrying lows. Green ended the season last year red hot, averaging about 25 points per game over the last month and a half of play, but before that, he was averaging just 17 points per game, shooting the ball pretty inefficiently, and at some point the Rockets may want to upgrade for a player that can produce produce night in and night out at a higher level. The package they've put together here I think would be pretty tempting for the Heat because along with Green we have Dylan Brooks, who just feels like the kind of player that exudes Heat culture, and Cam Whitmore, who had a very promising rookie season too, plus 2 first-round picks for an aging star. Butler would come in hungry to get back to the top. This deal would open up more of an immediate opportunity for rookie Reed Sheppard, and Alperen Şengün's game would be taken to a new level playing off of a star like Butler with NBA Finals experience. The Heat are trending in the wrong direction, landing in the play-in tournament back-to-back years, and they haven't made any moves this summer to indicate that they're trying to get themselves out of this rut. So if push comes to shove, and Butler's unhappiness becomes even more apparent, this is actually a deal I like as an option for them. The next proposal from the article is between the Miami Heat and the Atlanta Hawks, where the Heat received Trae Young in exchange for Terry Rozier, Duncan Robinson, 2 first-round picks, and 2 first-round pick swaps. So we just talked about the urgency the Heat have lacked this summer and how they may face some pressure to do something drastic soon, and this kind of deal basically plays on the other end of the spectrum, where they actually try to bolster themselves instead of shipping Jimmy Butler out. For a few years now, the Heat have been a stout defensive squad and individuals who can be brilliant on offense, but as a whole, they have ranked near the bottom offensively compared to other playoff teams. They've lacked a true point guard for a while now, relying on guys like Butler, Tyler Hero, and Terry Rozier to handle the duties of the primary ball handler, and honestly, Trae Young may be exactly what they need. Young is a one-man elite offense with a knack for getting to his spots with ease and creating easy looks for those around him. Unfortunately for the Heat, this just is not a good enough offer to acquire one of the league's best playmakers in Young, and it's kind of insane that anyone thought it would be. Terry Rozier's empty production in Charlotte got exposed a bit in his time in Miami. Duncan Robinson's three-point prowess abandoned him almost immediately after signing his big contract, and the draft capital included here is not close to being enough to make up for it. We just saw Mikal Bridges get traded for 5 first-round picks, so to think that Trae Young would be moved for 2 and some swaps is not based in reality whatsoever. Trae Young will eventually hit the trade block when the Hawks inevitably disappoint again, and when he does, the bidding war for him will prove his value is much higher than this. And finally, the last proposal from the article is between the New Orleans Pelicans and the Utah Jazz, where the Jazz acquire Brandon Ingram in exchange for Walker Kessler, John Collins, and a first-round pick. Earlier I mentioned the Pelicans have a big need for big men right now after they allowed Jonas Valanciunas to leave in free agency, so while Ingram's value may be low at the moment, this would actually be a dream return for them given the circumstances. Walker Kessler is an incredibly underrated big man who blocks a ton of shots as an interior defender, ranking 2nd in the NBA in blocks per game this past season, despite playing fewer minutes than everyone else in the top 10. He's a solid rebounder, and his skill set would be much more valued in New Orleans, where he would be a lock to play more minutes. Then the Jazz being able to rid themselves of John Collins, who proved to be a bit of a clunky fit playing alongside Lauri Markkanen, would be best for both parties too, because Collins could capably back up Zion Williamson and fill in as a starter if Zion were to get injured again. Brandon Ingram in Utah isn't going to blow anybody away, but it's worth a shot because of how much cap space the Jazz have moving forward, so they could easily offer him an extension if things go well, and if not, they've got the assets to recover from it. I would imagine the Jazz would want to take a bigger swing than this when the time comes, but if a proposal was on the table similar to this one, I really don't hate it for either side. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about these potential trades. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.